us now Peter Navarro, Assistant to the President and Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy Director. At no time was this discussed or ever something that was in the works. Peter, that was fake news, pure and simple. For real? Really?
Joe, we're going to get to that, and I promise you I'll answer that. But there's something I got to say first.
All right.
Last week, in a single day, President Donald J. Trump signed an historic Japanese trade deal in New York, while in Geneva, Switzerland, a White House-led team negotiated the most radical reform of a multinational organization in history. And those two big Trump wins are going to net the American people billions of dollars and thousands of jobs. Yet there was virtually no mention of these big Trump wins in the news. This news cycle was just overwhelmed by the second impeachment circus in 3 years. And make no mistake about this, Joe. This is an attempted coup d'etat, an end run around the ballot box, and these radical Democrats they've told us this much. I was astonished when Al Green, the Houston congressman, basically said, look, we can't beat Donald J. Trump at the ballot box. He's too good on the economy. He's standing up to China. We got secure borders. Let's just take him out with this impeachment stuff. So I think it's going to be I think it's war. The Congress has declared war on this president, electoral process, and the American people, and it's going to be, as Tulsi Gabbard said, very, very divisive. So I wanted to just put that out there, Joe, because I think this country, led by the House of Representatives, is just taking us in a very wrong direction.
Let's keep it in how that affects the China trade negotiations that we're talking about, Peter. Do you think that with that as a backdrop, it makes it more likely or less likely that China decides to grant some of our wishes, that the president stands firm? How does it? And actually, just you said you would answer about the transaction.
I do want to get deep into that, Joe.
About whether we delist, not transaction. But
Sure.
Was that ever on the table, delisting the Chinese company?
Let's talk about that. I think the last time we talked, I proposed Navarro's rule, which is that any story that comes from anonymous sources is likely to be fake news designed to part a fool from his money. And that story, which appeared in Bloomberg, I've read it far more carefully than it was written. Over half of it was highly inaccurate or simply flat out false, but it was market moving, Joe. Alibaba took a haircut, other Chinese companies. And it was really irresponsible journalism. And the problem we have here, it's kind of like the Gresham's law of journalism. It's like these bad stories push out the good. And what happens is, as soon as Bloomberg puts it out there, there's pressure for others to put it out there. Then it comes up on the cable news networks, and
but Peter,
pretty much. Yeah,
Peter,
but
it doesn't
Kayla, just stop. I want to finish this thought.
Wow.
This story was just so full of inaccuracies. And in terms of the truth of the matter, what the Treasury said, I think was accurate. But here's the problem I have,
but
Joe.
Treasury, Peter, did not address internal discussions about outbound U.S. investment.
Please, Kayla.
I'm trying to ask you a follow-up question because we also share airtime with you here.
Kayla. So here's my point. When these stories come out in the press, they're designed to basically have the White House reveal whatever it is going on there. And so I'm not going to do that here. But what I can tell you is this. There's some significant issues related to Chinese stocks listed on public exchanges. Senator Marco Rubio, among others, has brought that to our attention. And just let me give you some statistics on this. You have the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. There's over 100 Chinese companies with a market cap of over $1 trillion, which refuse to give appropriate transparency on accounting to the PCAOB. And fraud is ubiquitous. There's issues related to fake receipts, fake invoices.
Okay.
Hardest stuff is fake cash balances, because it's very hard for auditors to penetrate that wall. And so this raises real issues that then go down the line. For example, the Federal Retirement Thrift Board had announced a policy to start buying some Chinese, investing in Chinese stocks. So that raises risks. The Goldman Sachs dramatically increased the weighting in the MSCI index, which effectively forces investors to increase their investments there. So these are the issues, I think, that the White House and Capitol Hill are looking at. And that's all I'm going to say about what happened internally, other than to say that that story was fake
Peter,
news.
generally, do you support limits to capital flight? Generally, do you support policies to weaken the dollar? And is there a view at the White House? Is there an early stage discussion about how to do this if the trade dispute with China continues to linger? Because that was the crux of the story on Friday. Bloomberg had one story, New York Times, Politico, CNBC, various White House officials are talking to various news outlets, and they didn't all report the same thing. But we have reported in the past that there are some things under consideration that the administration has been evaluating at different stages of development, some brought by Congress, some originating internally.
How long is this going to go on, Kayla?
Well, we just let you speak
you brought
for
me
about
on
5
as a
minutes.
Guest, here. It's like.
So I believe that we can ask a follow-up question.
So can I? Yeah. Well, that was a follow-up monologue there. Here's my point, Kayla. Those kind of questions, it's not appropriate for me to answer. Basically.
But Peter, you say we're not allowed to listen to reports according to sources. You're here on the record, and you're saying you're not going to answer a question.
Can I finish my point here? Here's the thing. When these stories come out, all they are designed to do is to force the White House, people like me, to reveal the inner workings of our trade negotiations with places like China. And I'm not going to do that. The other part of the rule I have is the Lighthizer rule, that particularly with China in these sensitive areas of negotiation, these things are going to happen behind closed doors. So I think I've been forthright in telling you that the Bloomberg story was fake news. I think I've been forthright in telling you right now that there are some interesting and significant transparency issues with Chinese stocks. But that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to talk about what's going on behind closed doors in the negotiations.
Okay, so Peter, go beyond the stories.
Sure.
There is a view, and you're getting a lot of support. The administration's got a lot of support for the hypothesis, if not now, when? Okay, you have the reason why you get the wins you talked about is because the rest of the world believes that the U.S. is serious about this. So why not press further?
What are we talking about?
We're talking about why not press China further right now? The economy is weakening. They are risking a destabilization. Why not force them to make sure we get a deal that not just addresses genuine grievances about intellectual property rights, about subsidies, about forced transfer, but also makes this stick? Why not force it harder right now?
Donald J. Trump is standing up to Chinese like no president has done before. And what's on the table is what I've referred to in the past as the 7 deadly sins. And you've mentioned part of them. It's the cyber intrusions into our business networks, the intellectual property theft on hundreds of billions of dollars. It's the forced technology transfer, the dumping, the currency manipulation, the state-owned enterprises. And one of the things that's very important to me is the made in China fentanyl. It's going to kill over 100 Americans today and over 50,000 in a year. And I'm a little puzzled why you want us to go even further. I mean, President Trump is standing up for America on this, on 7 clear vectors that need to be addressed. So, it's like, what
but
more
Peter,
do you want us to do?
you know, if you tell the Chinese,
I know. Well, hang on. Before you say I know, don't put words in my mouth before I even speak. But ask your question.
So. There is a view that if you convey to China, it's not just about trade war. We can take it up to an investment war. We can take it up to a currency war. So agree now before it escalates. Why not make that argument very explicit and keep on pressing it right now? Why say, no, we're not looking at investment restrictions? Why step back from that?
I'm going to let commentators such as yourself speculate as to how the negotiations may unfold. I simply say that we've made abundantly clear what our asks are. In fact, there was a 150-page plus agreement on the table based on those 7 verticals that I talked about. And that's in terms of the context of what we're speaking with the Chinese. That's what President Trump is focused on. That's what Ambassador Lighthizer is focused on.
But
commentators are free to speculate on what other else you want to throw into the mix here, but that's not my job. My job basically is to have the back of the president and Ambassador Lighthizer as we navigate through very sensitive negotiations here. And I get back to this fake news from Bloomberg. I mean, this kind of thing does not help us, Joe. It just doesn't help us. But in terms
you
of
started
these
off with you talking about, I think you called it another impeachment hoax. How does, with that as a backdrop, just forecast how that changes, or does it change our negotiations with the Chinese over the next month, or between now and the election even?
Well, let's look at it from 2 perspectives. One, let's look at it from President Trump's perspective. This man has steely resolve about standing up to China. Nothing's going to change about that. The probability of a great deal has not changed, right? He has said very clearly, we're either going to get a great deal or we're not. With respect to the Chinese, I think it's fair to say that throughout these negotiations, they've consistently miscalculated the resolve of this president, and there's a danger here that they might do the same as this second impeachment circus is in 3 years, basically is fired up. But here, look, make no mistake about this too. The Trump base is not going to tolerate what's going on here. And independents and moderates in this country who are increasingly disgusted with this leftward lurch of the Democratic Party are not going to put up with this. I mean, America needs Donald J. Trump. The Trump base knows it. The independents know it. The moderates know it. They need President Trump for the challenges of the economy going forward. They need him to stand up to China. They need him to secure our borders. So I don't think that,
Peter, Wisconsin and
Pennsylvania,
Wisconsin and Pennsylvania were 2 of the states that President Trump won in 2016. And just looking at some of the employment data for this year, Wisconsin has lost 5,000 manufacturing jobs. Pennsylvania has lost 8,000 manufacturing jobs. What do you tell those workers in those swing states about the president's trade policy and when they will see results?
So I think that's a bit of cherry picking the data. We've created through President Trump's policies over 500,000 manufacturing jobs. I've been to the state of Wisconsin. I've been to Marinette, Wisconsin, where they're building the Littoral Combat Ship. I've been to Pennsylvania, York, Pennsylvania, where they're building the combat vehicle. All of these things have happened because of President Trump's ability to get an increased defense budget and his focus. I mean, every day this man goes to work and focuses on creating good jobs for the American people who work with their hands. I'm actively involved in working with the Philly shipyard issue. We are keenly aware of the importance of manufacturing in this country, and we're very proud of what President Trump has done
and there were,
to
Peter,
restore
some gains
those
in
manufacturing. Don't forget, Kayla,
2017
during
and 2018, but voters remember
during the Biden administration, they lost over 200,000 manufacturing jobs. And when people were on the set with Joe back during the campaign, they were telling Joe that the manufacturing was gone forever. We were going to be a service sector economy,
data that
and we'd only grow at 1%. So you can cherry pick your data, Kayla, but 6 million jobs created.
There are traders who warn of a manufacturing recession. There are workers who say.
Let me ask you this, Kayla. If we've got the lowest historic unemployment rates we've ever seen for blacks, Hispanics, women, the disabled, veterans, and you're here kind of singing some song about unemployment in an economy which is just giving a job to everybody who wants one, and still we need to fill jobs. So I don't even know why you're going down this path. This Trump economy is strong as a rock. Manufacturing is strong as a rock. And I've been to Wisconsin, and I've seen firsthand the fruits of President Trump's labor on the manufacturing front.
Peter, should we expect tariffs on the EU?
Don't ask me. ask the president and Ambassador Robert Lighthizer.
What we've got? How long before we'd need to see progress, and then we'd have more tariffs back on China? But it's 2 weeks, right? What do you expect is going to happen?
I expect that on October 10th, the Chinese delegation is going to arrive with Leo He leading it, and behind closed doors, he and his team will engage with Ambassador Robert Lighthizer, and then we'll see what happens.
Oh, I hear that a lot from President Trump. We'll see what happens.
Look, you can't, Joe. You can't negotiate in public. You just can't do that. I mean, you just can't do that. And again, I'm telling you, it's like the people watching this show who are investors. I just want to reemphasize this point. It's like any news that you hear about China that doesn't quote real sources. This is like a person close. Just don't believe it. Treat it as entertainment, not information. Otherwise, you're going to get a haircut.
Have you ever given briefings to reporters, Peter, off the record?
Why would you ask a question like that?
Because you're saying that any story that ever comes out is to be totally disbelieved.
What are you talking about? If you get something off the record, then a reporter can't do it. You don't even know the rules of journalism. My point is that
briefings.
Here's my point.
The White House often doesn't allow people to go on the record, Peter, which is why there's a
here's my
litany of
Ambassador Lighthizer
sources.
can go on the record anytime he wants. Okay, Steve Mnuchin can go on the record anytime he wants. Larry Kudlow can go on the record anytime he wants. Wilbur Ross can go on the record anytime he wants. These are the people who are the key players in the China negotiations. I'm just telling you, you saw what happened last week, right? You saw Bloomberg puts out a story. Billions of dollars change hands on what is effectively inaccurate information. Now, if you're telling me that's okay, Kayla, are you telling me that's okay?
I don't report things that aren't fully verified with multiple sources, Peter, but the issue is even principals often don't want to be seen disagreeing with the president in public. I would ask the White House to revise that policy.
That's another cheap shot, too. So, but anyway, how can I help you, Joe? Is there anything else?
No, we're done. We're done, Peter. Thanks.
I appreciate it, my friend.
Okay, we'll see you later. Thanks.